Welcome to the FNO InsurTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world. Welcome to a super exciting, I'm telling you this right now, I'm not kidding you.
No.
Super exciting episode of FNO InsurTech. I'm here with the one, the only Lee Boyd.
Hi there.
Who's a little self-conscious about his hair today. I want you to know.
It's just growing so much. My
Is that what
guy
it is?
has been out.
Oh, that's right. Your hair cutter's on vacation.
Well, he had a baby. Same thing, right?
No, that's
did.
the end of all vacations.
He did. He
When
had
you-
a kid. So he put me on hold, but he put me on hold for like a month. Anyway, he's been back for 2 weeks, but he didn't call and say, hey, you want to come get your hair cut? So I'm just here waiting for my appointment.
Can't you call him?
Dude,
That's
that's a
what
lot of
I do.
effort. That's a lot of effort.
All right. Okay, yeah. And plus your hair probably weights you down.
It does.
Because your hair is so long now.
It's long.
It's messing with your brain.
The front
It's
goes
messing
like
with-
almost to my nose. Well, the top of my nose. Anyway, people don't care about my hair, Rob.
You look marvelous.
Well, thank you.
I want you to know.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. It's hair.
Yeah.
What's so big?
Unfortunately, we don't publish the video of this.
No, we don't.
Because it's a real treat. It's a real treat.
It's a real treat. Maybe I'll just leave it like this.
And you know what? Speaking of real treats, we can't goof around today. We have
We
to
gotta
get to our
jump in.
guest. We got to get to our company that we interviewed today, which was fabulous. We had Chaz Perera, the CEO and co-founder of Roots Automation, on today. And I got to tell you, I think one of the most interesting and exciting podcasts that we've done, in large part, I have to say this, because we're claims people, right?
Right.
And we get claims, but this is not a claims only product, but it does have a lot of gearing towards claims. So pretty cool, huh?
It's going to be great. He's going to come in. He's going to talk about what they do and how they use AI to assist the claims process to help people, right? They do what they call digital coworkers. And it's a great podcast to understand where he came from. And first off, he's an insurance guy in the tech space solving insurance problems. And and we talk a little bit about that. But it's a great conversation, and I can't wait to learn more.
Yeah. He took a career's worth of learning and applied it to some really significant foundational problems
Right.
that both Lee and I have seen, been a part of, and encountered, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing it. They're
doing it.
This company is killing it. And
They're
it's a
growing,
company-
they're raising money, they're got clients, they're doing it.
Yeah. So we're going to get to that interview, and unless we have anything else to talk about beside your hair.
No,
Are we
that's
done with
pretty
your
much
hair?
it.
We
Yeah.
can talk about my hair. My hair looks pretty good today.
It does. It all, your hair never changes. I was sitting here just thinking, like, you never come up, you're like, oh, I let my hair grow a foot. Like, it's always the same.
No, I never do that. I
always
never
the
do that.
same. You had to grow.
I do have a hair cutter, though. We'll talk about that another time.
Oh, good. That's a whole nother
So
story.
without further ado, or without talking about haircuts or hairdos,
Hey, good job.
here's our interview with Chaz Perera, CEO and co-founder at Roots Automation. Hey, everybody. We are here with a special guest that we have wanted to have on the podcast for some time. And today is the day here in 2025. And so we have Chaz Perera. Perera?
Yeah, that's right.
Chaz Perera, the CEO and co-founder of Roots Automation, a name that I'm sure many of you know. With us today from where?
I was going to say calling in, but podcasting in, so to speak, from New York.
From New York. From the city, right?
Yes, downtown New York.
Downtown New York, the real place. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The real place. I'm in a building, although I'm in a small building in New York, oddly. Not one of the big towers, but New York nonetheless.
My son lives in a small building that's sandwiched between enormous buildings. And so I think we get it. Anyways, it's great to have you here today. And we thank you for making the time. And let's jump right in by asking you, what the heck is Roots Automation, and what do you do there?
Okay. I started Roots because I had lived in the insurance industry for 14 years, and I noticed that it was challenging to hire people. Statistically speaking, the insurance industry has maintained about a 10% vacancy rate year on year over the last decade and a half. And, when you're challenged to try to attract talent, you have to start to look at the work that you're doing and why that's preventing you from being able to acquire that talent. And you realize there is a lot of processes in insurance that rely on people to read, extract data from, reams and reams and reams of paper, email, and faxes. And it's not exciting work. It's often work that's critical because it impacts the way you underwrite and the way you handle claims.
Sure.
But it's prone to error. And so the genesis of Roots Automation was, how do you take all this unstructured data that is critical to underwriting an insurance policy and handling your claim, but do it without people? Extract that data, get it back to an insurance carrier, or get it back to a TPA in a consistent, highly accurate manner, much faster than their humans ever could. That's the genesis of Roots Automation, solving the unstructured data problem across the insurance industry. I happen to be the co-founder and CEO of the company. My partner, John, is our chief technology officer. We both, by the way, had decade and a half careers in the insurance industry prior to doing this. And by the way, not just from a tech perspective, but we've run underwriting, claims, finance ops, HRIT. So we really understand the value chain deeply.
You had a big job before this, right? Didn't you come from AIG with some big jobs?
Yeah, I think big is all relative. I had the opportunity to
big titles.
Big titles.
Big titles. Yeah, exactly. Big titles. I had the opportunity to own large swaths of the insurance value chain at AIG. It included things like running operations for the company at one point, being a chief transformation officer for the company at one point. So really thinking long and hard about strategy of the company, what were ways that we were leveraging technology effectively or ineffectively and how could we bring change forward. The challenge at working at an insurance company and trying to do some of the things that that my company's been able to do, it's really hard to bring all the different parts of the company together.
Yeah,
sure.
To do this at scale. And that's really why we said, let's go do this on our own.
Right. I mean, you have different parts working in different platforms.
Yeah.
Considering different topics that are all related importantly, but are nonetheless freestanding. And so, yeah, that's a tough challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it took me 3 years to realize, there's no way I could just corral all the muscle required to get this to work properly. That's why we're like, how do you do it?
They kept looking at you. They kept looking at you and saying, what's this guy trying to do anyways?
And so was this idea hatched during your time at AIG? And did you leave AIG with the thought of starting your own company?
Sort of. I had felt I had accomplished everything I could at AIG, and I was looking for the next series of opportunities. And I had been thinking about a variety of challenges the industry is facing.
Mm-hmm.
And I say variety, there was like 3 to 4 things that were top of mind for me. And I happened to grab a cup of coffee with John, who was at this point at a different company in an entirely different industry.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, remember this problem? It's still not solved. How would you go about solving it? And that led to a series of conversations at the same Starbucks in downtown Manhattan, just off Park Row. I think that Starbucks is still here, by the way.
Yeah.
That led to us saying, okay, if we're going to solve it, how would we go solve it? How big a problem is it? The things that any person trying to start a company, that they would take a series of logical steps to start that company. And we went through those same logical steps. It took us, 3 months to really do the deep dive, dig in, really understand the core challenges, the size of the problem, et cetera. But all of that we did after we left our companies, because you can't split time and do things effectively otherwise.
Right.
You know, the issue of how many people it takes to do these jobs traditionally, right? It takes a lot of people to do these jobs, because you have to have eyes on, like you described it perfectly. You have all the reams of paper, reams of data. You have to count on people to read it right, and then make good decisions about that data. And as people who have run a claims organization, Lee and myself, we know that there were, I mean, how many times did we sit in meetings, Lee, where the essence of the meeting was, boy, wouldn't it be nice to take this whole section of this and run it through some package, some platform that gives us those answers. And then that information can go to the people to make decisions or to verify or whatever the case may be. I mean, what the problem that you identified is a pain point, I think, that many, many people can relate to in our industry.
100%. I'll start with claims, and I'll give you perspective on underwriting in a second, because the problem is consistent across both functional areas within an organization. Over the life of a claim, there's a high likelihood that the claims adjuster will see not 10 documents, not 100 documents, but 150 to 200 independent, unique documents on a claim. It's not like it's a single page or it's a nice, neat form. And oftentimes, what those documents are suggesting is that the adjuster should take a series of actions to mitigate the costs, find a way to commute the claim. What often happens, however, is that the important information is buried deep within these documents. An example would be a lawyer has no incentive to make it, the plaintiff lawyer has no incentive to make it easy for you or your claims adjusters to get to the answers they need. So they can bury things in a 900-page demand package, for example. Statistically speaking, because of how hard it is to get to the right answers and to get to the information, in the property casualty industry, for every dollar that a claims adjuster pays on a claim, they are typically overpaying that claim by 6 cents.
So 6%.
6%. In an industry, by the way, that last year, the combined ratio across the entire industry was 103%. Right? That 6 cents could have made a huge difference in the profitability of many.
Between profitable or not. Right.
Exactly.
It's the linchpin.
Exactly.
One could say.
That's right. By the way, underwriting is not that different. If you think about what an agent or broker is doing, they're submitting, again, lots and lots of paper to an insurance company, or it's an email with a bunch of attachments, but same concept, right? But they're sending a lot of information to the underwriter and saying, I need you to quote this. Unfortunately, you miss things. You misunderstand things. What that typically leads to is, for every dollar or premium that an insurance carrier is underwriting, they're actually leaving 8 cents on the table. They should be charging you $1.08.
Wow.
All because of unstructured data.
So now you're at
14.
You're at 14 points. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly right. There's a massive opportunity to substantively change the industry if you can just corral the information, get it right, get it in front of the adjuster or the underwriter at the right time.
So let's talk adjusting. Let's talk claims. That's where my mind goes. Explain to me in layman terms, right? What does an adjuster get when they're working with route automation? What are they seeing? Are they in a portal? Are they looking at a claim? Is it, how does it work?
Yeah. So the beauty of our AI is it's generally working behind the scenes. It is working within the systems that the adjuster is already familiar with. So we are not introducing a new pane of glass and saying that we are a single a claims management system, and that, that's what Guidewire, that's what Duck Creek, that's what Majesto, that's why they exist, right? Snapsheet.
Right.
They exist to be the claims management system. What we try to do is the work of the underwriting assistant and some of the work of the claims adjuster. Our AI is performing a role at an insurance company. In that context, imagine as an email comes into an organization, let's say that email is where we're talking workers' comp insurance, and the email is from a medical provider suggesting to the adjuster that they want to complete a medical examination, they want to do an MRI, a CAT scan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The way they typically introduce that to the adjuster is something called a request for authorization. If you don't respond to that within 5 days, you're on the hook for the costs associated with that medical examination. What our software does is watching all of these things that are coming into the organization. As soon as it sees those things, it's like, hey, adjuster, here's what you need to know about what just came in. This is the action you need to take. Right? So we're not making the underwriting decision today. We're not making the claims decision today, but we're doing the things that the underwriting assistant and the claims assistant does, which is prepping the work, suggesting things, enabling that underwriter or that claims adjuster in the context of this exec to do what they're paid to do, make good decisions.
It's like an admin for the adjuster.
Exactly.
A personal assistant.
A personal assistant.
Yeah.
The difference is you don't have to prompt it. It knows what you need. It knows when you need it. It knows why you need it, and it will put it in front of you.
So we could also, you also call it digital coworkers. Is that right? Okay. I like that.
That's right. We're trying to personify. Look, AI. I think AI is less scary, thanks to the advent of things like ChatGPT.
Right.
But when we started this company in 2018, AI was still scary to people, and so we wanted to personify this because what we're not trying to do is get rid of people's jobs. It makes no sense to do that because there's already a 10% vacancy rate. But let's get them to be more effective at what they're doing.
Yeah. And that's a huge deal. I mean, if you had, a percentage point for every time somebody said, "Oh, I missed that."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's so. Is this all lines, or is it really centered on comp, or are you involved in other lines too? Because it would seem to me that any line could benefit from this, right? Anywhere where there's a claim and an adjuster.
That's right. It is agnostic of product line. Again, focused on the property casualty industry, but agnostic of product line. I don't know if there'll be a shift this year as quickly as you saw the last couple of years, but a lot of carriers moved from, because of risk tolerance and underwriting appetite, they moved from a lot of placement insurance moved from admitted lines to E&S lines. And as a result, the claims process is slightly different because there's less structure.
Right.
And so it's actually a little more complicated for claims adjusters as a result of that shift. Our software is great at that stuff, right? Because it contextually understands the role of the adjuster, the language that's used, not just at the claims level, but also at the product level.
Yeah.
Homeowners property and commercial property use different language. It also contextually understands language at the geographic level. U.S. insurance language and U.K. insurance language is different.
And so there, you're talking about one of the issues that we've had for several years, which would be unstructured data, right? You've been talking about unstructured data. You're not interpreting just words on a page. You're bringing data and correlating it somehow in ways that it hasn't been in the past. What has happened that has allowed us to start structuralizing unstructurable data, right? Is it an advancement in technology? What's been going on there?
Yeah, look, I think large language models have made this exercise exponentially faster. And by the way, I say this as somebody in a company that has been leveraging early forms of these large language models and transformer models even prior to the advent of things like ChatGPT, right? We were on the forefront of this stuff. We started to see this stuff and started to leverage it. If you were trying to do this, the evolution here has been, initially people said, okay, let's just templatize everything. Insurance is not an industry where you can live in templates, right? Everybody does things differently. They're incentivized in many ways to do things differently. So then the next step is, how do you leverage AI and natural language processing, traditional machine learning models? The challenge with traditional machine learning models is you need lots and lots and lots and lots of data and lots and lots and lots and lots of samples and examples to be able to train the model to understand the variety that exists in the underlying correspondence that you're getting. That's nearly impossible to do. What large language models have done is say, well, look, actually, the nuance we can train for some of the nuance. You can fine tune for the nuance, but we can at least understand what's on the page, right? We can understand that we don't understand the context of everything, but we understand the words and what the words in sequence mean. And what we've been able to do is take these large language models, tie them together with these traditional machine learning models, and then supplement them with other data to allow our AI to act as an insurance professional who's been working in the industry for 20 plus years. That's the advancement.
You've given it experience,
Exactly.
so it has a foundation to think from.
Exactly. Last year, by the way, our company saw 250 million unique insurance documents.
Wow.
Right. That's stuff that gets fed back into our models that make it richer and richer and richer. So we're learning because the community that is on our platform, all these different insurance companies are contributing to making the knowledge base richer for all of them.
So when somebody new signs up, a new company signs up to use your systems, I assume they're feeding in their documents that are specific to their world, but are they able to use the overarching knowledge the system has gained? Am I right with that thought?
Yeah, absolutely right. And here's why. I think the misnomer people have about quote unquote their data, is that it's their data. And here's what I mean. It's not Roots' data, to be clear. I just mean that insurance is a community exercise. The thing that you think is yours is being liberally shared by other parties in the process. Yeah. Right. And the simplest example is when a broker is submitting a package to insurance company A to receive a quote from that insurance carrier, they're also sending it to at least 2 others, theoretically up to 5 others at the same time. The same package with the same documents, right? And so you're insurance company A, but you're receiving the insurance application from insurance company B, and you're being told, produce a quote.
Wow.
It's a community exercise.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing I think insurance companies, by the way, in particular, absolutely made a mistake around. They think the data is theirs. Well, it's not, because everyone's sharing it. Vendors are sharing it amongst us. I don't mean Roots, right? I just want to be clear. I mean, like the mechanic that's repairing that car is sending that to the law firm, is sending that to an independent adjusting firm, is sending that to the insurance. Everything's being shared.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's just the sensitivity around privacy. So they do want it to be theirs, but in reality, it's already out there, right? I can protect my email address all day long. It's my email address, but in reality, 1,000 different companies have my email address. It just is what it is. So maybe there is more to sharing information like that for the greater good.
I think what I try to remind folks, if I'm an insurance carrier I have 4 core competencies that make me outcompete my competitors, right? The other people in the industry. On the underwriting side, it's my ability to assess a risk, and it's my ability to price it appropriately. On the claim side, it's my ability to assess coverage, and it's my ability to reserve effectively, right? If I do those 4 things, I'm a profitable insurance company. I can be a very profitable insurance company. That's where my secret sauce is. That's where my competitive advantage is. It is not in my ability to read a document and get the data out faster.
Yeah. And so with the change in technology being so quick over the past couple of years, which I know is decades in the work,
The pace has increased.
the pace continues to increase. Are we going to see even more that your system can do, right? As technology gets better and better, will it ultimately be able to adjust a claim on its own?
I would be lying if I said that it is not, it's impossible. I think there is a point in time where for certain subsets of product and for certain functions, software can go end to end without human intervention. But just sticking to claims, right? Because you guys are in the claims business. Determining coverage, software can determine coverage if it's a matter of comparing a policy to the first notice. But if we think about the evaluation process an adjuster goes through, they're assimilating a lot of other information. Some of it is gathered through documentation. Some of it's gathered through conversation. Some of it's gathered through third parties. Like there are a lot of steps that have to come together to assess coverage fully. So to suggest that, you can replace the claims adjuster in the next 2 to 3 years, I think is a fallacy. I'm not suggesting it couldn't happen over a longer period of time, but it could happen sooner rather than later.
And won't it happen in like a pyramid fashion, like you said, like the very specific kinds of claims? I can't think of one. Maybe a cell phone claim.
Yeah, that's right.
Or something that's very kind of as close to binary as it can be, right? And then work its way up towards eventually, work comp, right? Or whatever the most complicated, complex ones. Those will, of course, be last.
Yeah,
I would think.
So the examples I give you there, Rob, your cell phone one is a good example, which is you could automate those processes today really without AI, because you only need to check to see if the claim that's being submitted is fraudulent. Outside of that, it's binary because I suspect the cost to actually adjust the claim is greater than the value of the phone. So just pay the claim.
Right.
Right. That's step one in that in the Pareto, so to speak. And then you go up market, and you're going to get to certain product lines. Environmental is a good example of this. D&O is another good example where there's so much information and so much complexity to the decision making that you can automate components of the process, like setting up but it doesn't make sense to automate the totality of the claim. I also think people forget something here, which is what is on the back end of every claim? It's a human.
Right.
Something happened to someone. That someone could be an individual who bought a policy in his homeowner's policy, or it could be a risk manager who's concerned about the viability of their company because of a situation that happened. You have to show empathy. You have to actually, it's not just like perceive the understanding, you have to actually believe it. And that's not something technology can supply, right? Human to human interaction is really important here.
So I have to ask you, how do you make these things, without getting into secret sauce or too much technical stuff, how do you make these things smart? Like you were saying about the email that comes in and the coworker attends to it and knows to attend to it properly, whatever the contents may be, routes in its proper direction. I mean, what you would hate is that an adjuster comes along and says, they sent it over here to station A, but it belonged in station R. What the heck? And I'm sure that's something that, could keep you guys up every night. But how do you make those things smart? How do you make these coworkers smart to begin with? How do you download everything and all the other smart people running around at Roots into this so that they could be decision makers?
So the beauty of our platform is that it's not relying on my smarts, because I'm not that smart. It is actually relying on the smarts of our customers' people. The most important thing in artificial intelligence are the humans in the loop. Our philosophy is that the best humans to be in the loop, training, educating, and evaluating the decisions of the software are the insurance experts sitting at our customers' companies. Right? So when I think about all the tech that we have and how all the tech is stitched together at great value for our customers, I fall back to the most important thing is still the humans in the loop. And what our software does is it gives our customers guardrails to set for how the software makes decisions. It's up to them to decide how narrow or how wide those guardrails are. And as those guardrails are close to being breached, the software will pause, reach out to, let's say, one of you guys and say, what do you think? Here's my supposition about the right answer. Here's why I think I'm confident in my answer. But I think it could be one of these two or three other options. What do you think? Right? And that then that becomes that loop, that cycle that's constantly educating the software about how to make good decisions and bad decisions in context of the transaction, the use case it's working on, but also with perspective about the person that it's asking help from, right? We're not assuming it's always the right person, that you can send the software to any person to elicit a response. You have to think long and hard about who's the right person to elicit the best possible response from.
Speaking of
that's fabulous.
Speaking of people, you have two audiences that I suppose you're working with. You have senior leaders who are saying, hey, I don't have enough people to fill these roles, and I need to take off the stuff that they don't need to be worrying about and use the human for what the human is. And then you also, during implementation, you have the people who are saying, hey, you're trying to replace me, right? You're trying to replace me. They're not looking at the bigger, greater picture. What is your discussion points, to the folks who are saying, you're trying to replace me, I don't want to implement this? Is it more of what you've been talking about, more of that? What do you say to them?
A couple things. And I should preface this by saying it's not really important what I say or what the team at Roots says to these people at the ground level, Lee. It's important what their leadership says about this change.
Oh, that's a great statement.
Totally.
That's a great statement.
Totally.
This is a change management exercise.
Totally. All good implementation happens there.
That's a great statement.
And so what I encourage my team to do is to make sure that we are heavily focused with the leaders at the company around change management. And we're very transparent about it. For example, we have the ability to predict about when someone is going to be angry because the AI is there and is doing the work well. Right? But we can also predict when that same person is going to be happy that the AI is here because of other pressures it's relieved for that. And so what's really important is that we spend time with the leaders at these companies talking about the change curve, talking about how they should be communicating this type of change with their organization. 9 times out of 10, our customers aren't cutting costs.
Right.
Our customers are trying to create new capacity so that they can refocus their people on higher value work.
And
That's
get
the
their
important
hands
thing.
on those percentage points that you're,
Right.
those 14 points.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
want to cash those in.
That's right.
It's not that they're trying to
Nobody-
cut costs. They're trying to do things right. They're trying to do
Exactly.
what needs to be done correctly.
Exactly. Why do people often leave a company? They often leave a company because they don't enjoy the work, they don't enjoy their manager, they don't enjoy the team they work with directly. What we try to do is focus on how do we take the work they don't like doing off their plates, and how do we ensure that the digital coworker is their favorite column.
I like that.
Right. The other two things we can't necessarily resolve, but at least we're streamlining some things that are important.
Right. I do want to ask about, you were talking about the implementation and how the setup of the implementation is so important, and change management and getting the buy-in. I've implemented quite a few things, some successfully, some not. What does the implementation process look like for a new company who wants to use your services? Give us an overview of what that kind of looks like.
Yeah. So step one is for us to make sure that we have a sound understanding of what the underlying process at the company looks like before we introduce the digital coworker into the process. Because we want to make the introduction of the digital coworker as seamless as we possibly can. We also want to recognize that for a company to successfully implement any type of AI, they have to think about how the process needs to evolve. Specifically, you want the AI to sit in the middle of the processes, bookended by people. So a person can initiate a process. It could be a third party outside the four walls of the company, but a person can initiate the process. The AI starts to do the work, and then the AI may hand some of the work off to a human. Right? So you can't just take the process as is and say, we'll follow. It's not, because it's not intended for those breaks to exist. So the first thing we do is make sure we understand the underlying process that exists today.
Smart.
We understand what changes or tweaks are warranted. And then we make sure that we get our customers comfortable with the AI. So we take their data, we run it through our models, we start to give them what we expect the performance of those models to look like initially. What will the accuracy be? How much volume will we take off the plates of the adjusters, meaning straight through process things in this example? Also, because that's part of change management. Let's
Right.
tell them what's going to happen so that they're not surprised when it happens. Right? So that's the process. And typically implementations, some of our customers can be a few days. For others, it could be 3 months because of the size and the nature of the process that we're going to be participating in.
That makes sense.
But it's less about the technology. It's very much about getting the people at the ground level comfortable that this thing that they can't necessarily touch and feel is competent and capable of being just as good as they are.
I want to ask you a question on this whole point that you're bringing up here. And that is, first of all, when you are you working more in claims or more in underwriting in general across the business?
When I look at our customers and I look at the use cases, it's a 50-50 between underwriting clubs today.
Okay, so the take up has happened in both.
Yes.
And in some companies, is it just one or the other?
It's not uncommon for a company to start in claims, but most of our customers we're participating in both.
Is what's driving the claims demand labor?
Claims demand is typically labor, yes.
We just can't keep good, experienced people involved here enough.
We can't keep them involved here enough. In fact, there's this really poor statistic that, you hire somebody, it may take you about 4 months to find them. You get them trained up, and that may take you about 2 months. You will lose them within 18 months. They will just find some other opportunity because they're not excited by the work.
Yeah, these are things that we've seen, in our work time and time again. But we used to say, when I was involved in the sales processes, I used to say, the last thing that the person wants to hear that you're talking to or you're selling to is, we have to change your process. And that's tough. Even with, I would think, with your product, which they kind of know inherently, this is going to change the process. But is there pushback there? Do you get? I'm sure if you don't get pushback on a senior level, you certainly get pushback from the production floor, right?
Yes, absolutely. But this is why it's so important to show that what was and what could be, to build trust along that process. And the only way to build trust is to show them again and be consistent. I said it's going to be this way. This is what and then it turns out that way, right? They have to know that you're truthful, you're predictable, and then they will be open to it, because they will then inherently know that the value that they're hoping to see for them as individuals will be seen. By the way, it's also important to understand what their underlying problem is. Oftentimes, when you're talking to executive or the selling process, you're talking about, how can I generate new revenue for you? How can I increase capacity for you? Right. How can I speed them up? But when you're talking to somebody at the ground level, it's things like, man, I know on Sunday, I get the Sunday fuzzies, because when I show up on Monday, there's a pile of stuff waiting for me to work.
Right.
So if I can show you how to get rid of that pile, so that when you're thinking about when you're thinking about the work you have on Monday, you don't have the Sunday fuzzies, because it's all going to be taken care of by the time you show up, right? And you prove that. That's what they care about. So it's really making sure you understand the value at the individual level, at the line level, because it's not the same as at the executive level, clearly.
And that you hit, I think, the most important single word with everybody that we talk to on this podcast. And you guys maybe even more so, and that is trust.
Yeah.
Can I trust you? Can I trust the product? Especially yours, which is isn't a product that they've bought before, isn't something that they've used before. Like when they bought our independent adjusting services, they knew exactly what, and they knew exactly what KPIs they were interested in, right? Because they've been doing it for years. Now you're talking about, we're all new. So the trust build is tough. And I applaud you for taking that on. That's tough. But the best way to take it on is to know you have a product that works. Yeah. And to not be on the other end of the phone saying, gosh, I've never seen that before. I don't know why that happened. I'll check into it. You don't want that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Look, I think we all strive for raving fans. I believe we have some raving fans, evidenced by the fact that so in the startup world, one of the measures is this concept of net dollar retention. How much more are your existing customers buying from you? Last year, our net dollar retention was north of 150%.
Wow, that's great.
Right?
Congratulations.
People are generally striving to get to 100, right? So phenomenal net dollar retention, which is that they don't, and there, look, it is about creating value for the customers, but it's also about the experience they have in the sales process, in the implementation process, post-sale, post-production. Like it's got to be consistent. It's got to be the things you said you're going to do, you're doing. That's all people really want to know. Be predictable.
Yeah. I think another way to know if you're on the right track and if you're doing a good job is by, actually raising additional funds, which you announced that you raised your Series B a little north of $20 million. That's a great thing, and that just shows that the market is excited about what you're doing. What are your plans with those funds? What do you have earmarked for that?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, we want to continue to evangelize what we've been doing. And so we've gone through an exercise to bring more people on board to allow us to scale what we do.
Great.
That's true from a sales perspective, from a customer success perspective, from a marketing perspective, from an engineering perspective. We do a lot of research and development. So we have researchers on staff. They're constantly thinking about what's required to be able to evolve the product as the insurance industry is evolving. So we spend a lot of time and money and thought there. And we expect that over the next few years, we will make some choices around how we expand beyond the insurance industry in the United States. So we're gonna place some bets on where we think the next set of logical
good for you
avenues to pursue are.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
I love that.
You want to preview anything?
He's like, no, not yet.
We're open to preview. Or you can come back to announce it.
I'd love to come back to announce it.
There you go. There you go. He's like, not quite yet. Not quite yet.
Yeah.
That's a deal. And first of all, when Lee and I have had a good time, when we've used up all the time that we had available.
Yeah.
And we're almost there. And because as claim professionals, we 100% get, and Lee more so than me, I don't get probably all it does, but I get the problem, right? And, I'm sure working in transformation, your transformation work that you did in your past really helped to inform a lot of what you've had to do here, right? And not just the product, but how to make the product acceptable.
Yes, I was fortunate in that when I worked at AIG, by the way, fantastic place to work. And for a big company, given the crisis it had to really survive. And to survive, it had to start to be experimental. What that meant was early on, before many other insurance companies, it started to evaluate things like artificial intelligence and behavioral science and a variety of other things that I got to bring forward and participate in. It taught me that core to any change is making sure that you understand the motivations of the people that are affected by the change. And that's what we spend a lot of time to do. The insurance industry it's not about technology. It is not about process. It's not even about the risk. It's about the fact that something bad happened to someone and they need help. Mm-hmm. How do you get that help to them as quickly as you possibly can, make them whole, and make them feel good about the experience? Mm-hmm. And the three of us work in an industry that, unlike Apple, only gets to touch its customer a few times a year if we're lucky. Mm-hmm. And often when we're touching them, something bad's happened. And they don't really want to talk to us, right? And so really being focused on the people and the outcomes for the people is the critical thing to do here.
Mm-hmm. I just want to comment that for years, we would interview people who were bringing insurtechs to the industry, and they would be technology professionals. You are a great example of how things have changed, and that is you're an insurance guy. Faze, I'm sorry to call you that, but you are.
I'm not insulted by that. I am 100% an insurance
you are. And so everything that you're talking about is informed through years of learning how this industry is so unique. And I'll speak for Lee. We think it's fabulous. Don't we think it's fabulous?
Fabulous.
What do you think?
I love it. I can't wait to learn more about it offline.
Look, I never thought I'd work in the insurance industry, but now I've been in and around it for 20 years, I think, at this point. And I have a deep appreciation for what it does, which most people don't think about, right?
Right.
Progress doesn't happen if there isn't somebody who's backstopping your risk. Who is that? It's an insurance company.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. That's true in every walk of life. If it's sports teams that want to go, like kids sports teams that want to go play soccer, or some billionaire that wants to launch a rocket into space, it's the same thing. There's an insurance company as a backstop. And that's the thing, right? Progress doesn't happen, and that's why I'm excited about the insurance industry. It's all about progress.
So true.
Awesome.
So true.
Well, we can't thank you enough. This has been great.
Yeah.
And so interesting. And we have more questions, everything else. We're going to hold you to your announcement happening on this podcast, damn it. Don't even try to get out of it. It's too late.
Too late. You already
This is
said.
how you build trust, man.
I'll be here, guys. I promise.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We've really appreciated it and enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Rob and Lee, thank you. It's appreciated as well.
You know, I can't tell you, and I mentioned in the podcast, how many meetings have you been in where we've said in different ways, from different approaches and different issues, boy, I wish we had something like that.
Oh, absolutely. This is a great example of I wish I had something like that.
And we even tested, and if you recall, spent a lot of money, i.e. more than 7 figures, on trying to make that happen.
We did. We went down the road of us trying it, but it's nice to know that he's out there now to help
There's
us
one
out.
that works.
That there's one that actually works.
Great podcast, great guy.
Can't wait to have him back.
Very interesting company. Signed up for round 2.
Yeah, we appreciate
already.
that. Thank you.
And we do appreciate that. And as we know, all you guys are signed up for 300 of these podcasts that we do. And Lee and I are getting ready to go to London. Very excited about that.
Can't wait.
And when you hear this, we might have already been there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But whatever the case may be, until we see you again.
Goodbye, everybody.